I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're taking a fascinating look at aviation history through an unexpected lens: postage stamps. The name of the book, Helicopter History, the First 100 Years Viewed Through Philately, by author Philippe Orsetti. In the book, he combines his decades of experience in the helicopter industry with a passion for philately to create a unique and visually stunning tribute to rotary wing aviation. This book is a must-read for history buffs, aviation enthusiasts, and collectors alike. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Philippe, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
It's a pleasure.
This was a combination of two of your loves, stamp collecting and helicopters, right?
Absolutely. I had during my career, I had some hobbies, and one of the hobbies being stamp collecting, which followed me all my life, and I really enjoyed it. And it was one evening, I enjoy collecting, and also collect antiques, but stamp collecting was my primary passion.
Wonderful, wonderful. And tell us a little bit about your journey with helicopters. You worked for what is now Airbus for a long time as well.
Yeah, exactly. I started as an engineer in 1967, and I moved from engineering to sales, and I was a representative of my company in Asia. So I had 22 countries in Asia where I was traveling constantly. And after that, we opened a subsidiary in United States, which I participated in creating and running. And I stayed there until I retired, and the company is still there in Grand Prairie, Texas, and it's a big company now. And
Yeah.
so all my career was, I went through everything, management, engineering, sales, everything that touched helicopter, except being a helicopter pilot. I have a license, a pilot license, but I was not helicopter pilot. That's a full-time job, and you cannot do that just for fun.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to be very, very experienced. I think it takes even greater skills to fly what we call a fling wing than it does to fly a fixed aircraft. I love flying in helicopters. It's my favorite thing in the world. I feel like unless you've been up in a helicopter, you really haven't flown. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, that's right. But helicopter is a plane. You go from A to B, and you hope to arrive on time. But a helicopter is meant to, it's another dimension because you travel in the third dimension, and it is meant to work, essentially. It's not to go from one point to another, which is very convenient, obviously, to land in your garden. That's great.
Yeah.
But that's not the object. The object is to build, is to go in hospital, to carry injured people, to rescue people at sea, to go wherever it is too high, too low, too cold, whatever is extreme, helicopter is getting in. So that's the object of helicopter.
Exactly. If a plane can't do it, a helicopter often can. I was in a helicopter a lot when I was doing TV news reporting and covering major events and so forth, and it was wonderful. Loved being up there. I loved the feeling of pulling off from the ground and having such a bird's eye view of the landscape below. You're giving the folks at home with your book a beautiful view of some of the most beautiful aircraft ever crafted. Tell us about some of the images that they'll find in your book.
Well, it's in the book, I realized that basically all the countries in the world have issued helicopter stamps, stamps with helicopter on it. So I tried to gather them. And the first flight was in 1907 by Paul Cornu. That was the first real helicopter flight, because before that it was many attempts. And in 2007, that was a centenary. So I look at all the stamps that have been issued everywhere in the world, about 1,000 of them, I got them. It was difficult, but it took me years to get them. And then I explained the helicopter through those images and not through picture, because there are many helicopter picture, but all those images in stamp have been already selected by a country. When they select an image to put on a stamp, many people have been working at that, and they took the best picture they could imagine. So here we have the best picture of helicopter on a small rectangular piece of paper, and which basically illustrate all this story from the first flight, even before the first flight, all the attempt by the pioneers, and after that they also show event, war event, rescue event, and all of that is stamps is the history of the world, and just this section is absolutely fascinating.
Exactly. It's a unique perspective. The history of the helicopter is actually the history of the last 100 years or so of humanity. And it's certainly a symbol of their advancement. What was that first helicopter flight like back in 1907?
Well, it was a small machine. It was like a bicycle, basically. The pilot was sitting on a bicycle seat, and it had a small engine in front of him, and it had two rotors. Uh, and the problem of the helicopter, the concept has been known since Leonardo da Vinci, because he invented, if we want to say that, a kind of a screw in the air to come up. The trouble is how you propel that. What you need a lot of power to do that. And of course, it was no engine. So the idea of Leonardo da Vinci could not work. It was no engine to propel it. And it took a lot of time, and it was never enough power. For a plane, you don't need that much power to carry, but to lift vertically something, you need a lot of power. And so the first flight it was many first flight, but all the other first flight were not real first flight, because they were tethered, they were helped by people on the ground, so the real free first flight was in 1907 by Paul Cornu. So, and from then on, of course, it was the first flight in coming back to where you started. It was the first altitude flight. It had been many first, but the first real free helicopter flight, 1907.
Yeah, amazing. It does take a lot of lift to lift off vertically, a lot of power, as you mentioned, which is why helicopters tend to go down fast if they're not able to auto-rotate if they lose an engine, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. How have helicopters evolved over the past century? What are some of the great advances that we're seeing perhaps over the last couple of decades?
Well, the event came with the engine. Again, the engine was a driving force. It's a kind of a pun, but it was the engine. You need more power. To get more power, to get more lift, and to carry more load. So the engine evolved. You could carry loads. That means you could carry passengers, you could carry vehicle, you can do all kind of things. And you put at first one engine, then two engines, a helicopter with three engines, and carrying more and more load, and with more application, military application, of course. And so that was really the progress. And then after that, it was a fine tuning, fine tuning of the rotor to get more efficiency. And so with electronic, of course, with autopilot, with all of that evolved with time. And now we have very, very fine machine, can fly an instrument, you got long range, you can do a kind of extraordinary thing with helicopter.
Yeah. Yeah, they're beautiful machines, no doubt. What are some of the most unique or rare helicopter themed stamps in your collection?
But more rare. I guess one which I like is not the stamp itself, but it was signed by one helicopter hero who still is dead now, but the altitude record, Jean Boulet. Jean Boulet was Somiti was in the helicopter industry, so he signed me one of the stamps. That is my most prized stamp. The stamp is maybe $5, but this one is absolutely priceless.
Amazing, amazing. I'm sure that is a proud stamp to have in your collection, no doubt. So this book was a labor of love. Like I said, you love helicopters, you love stamps. Tell us what it was like putting it together. You had a lot of stamps to go through. You had to choose which ones you thought would be of greatest interest to the readers, correct?
Not exactly. I tried to put them all in
Okay.
this exhibit, all which were produced since the event of the stamp, which was after the helicopter. No, it was before, of course, but it was no helicopter, so they could not illustrate it. But I tried to put all the stamps that existed, but I had to know what existed. So I had to really screen all the catalog, find all the image of with helicopter, which already took quite some time. And after that, to find the stamp. That means going to or corresponding with all the stamp dealers around the world to try to buy the stamps. They were not too expensive. It was a few bucks each. That was not the problem. It was not a money problem. It was finding them. And that was very, very complex. It took me years. And when I got everything that existed, I tried to put it on an exhibit because you got some rule for exhibit, you got so many pages, and so a stamp exhibit, which is competitive, you got five frame. A frame is 12 pages. So I was limited to 80 pages. That is why the book is 80 pages. And on those 80 pages, I had to cram 1,000 stamps, which was quite complex. So it took time. It was fun. It was a fun adventure.
Wonderful. And it's a fun, adventurous book, no doubt. The name of the book, The Helicopter History, the First 100 Years Viewed Through Philately. In the book, Philippe combines his decades of experience in the helicopter industry with a passion for philately to create a unique and visually stunning tribute to rotary wing aviation. This book is a must-read for history buffs, aviation enthusiasts, and of course, stamp collectors alike. Philippe, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. I really appreciate this moment.
I appreciate your time, sir. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.